Welcome in, everybody, to the Purple People podcast. We are back. We didn't die. We didn't disappear. Just took a little breather. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that I'm burnt out on football, but I was very sad again not watching the Vikings be at the Super Bowl, especially having to be at the Super Bowl and watch the Eagles win. But we are back, baby. It's what episode is this? 596. We're going to talk
Ooh,
about.
boy.
I know. We're going to talk about pre-draft, pre-combine, and yeah, just we were kind of catching up before the show started. How are you, fellas? What are y'all up to? What's new?
Been watching a little bit of too much TV and movies, but other than that, doing my thing.
I've been stealing eggs from work and selling them on the black market. I'm kidding, maybe.
Did you see the report that eggs are going to go up even more?
Oh, yeah.
God. That's horrible.
And I eat one egg every morning, so it's like, not cool, guys, not cool.
Trust me, it is not even my department, and people act like it's me personally setting the prices. And
well, I could yell at you for the price of the hamburger.
Yeah, you could. Spoilers, I don't set that price either.
That's why I've been eating a lot more ground turkey and ground chicken and that kind of stuff, because that isn't as expensive as hamburger anymore.
No, you're talking about football. It's funny how you can get jaded when your team doesn't make the Super Bowl run, the playoffs, like what you expect them to do. And, screw this. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of all of it. Now that the season is over and we've had a little bit of time, I was off, I had a week of vacation. And when Thursday rolled around, I think I told you guys in our private chat, man, I could go for one of those terrible Thursday night football games right about now.
Well, the USFL is starting up here pretty soon. You can be ready to go.
I'll watch it. I try to catch a little bit of it. It's
and
fun.
I don't know how interested you are in the combine and stuff like that, but that's coming on here pretty soon. They did the coach and the GM interviews on Tuesday, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've seen those.
Are they doing those televised or clips of them? Or
they aired them already.
Cool. Anything interesting happened with that?
Oh, we'll definitely talk about some of the stuff they said.
Awesome.
No worries there. But otherwise, we got not quite a bit of Vikings news, but we got some. I caught Mr. Smith off guard, and I know Mr. West does not scroll in our chat, so I can have some fun with this.
Uh-huh.
Kyle West, how many bathrooms do you think are in US Bank Stadium?
How many bathrooms are in US Bank Stadium?
To preface this, I told Adam, I said, I don't know how you ended up on NFL Stadium bathroom TikTok. How did that happen? And I don't know, but this is going to blow your mind.
I mean, are we talking individual stalls, or is the public bathroom? The public bathroom counts as one place.
Oh, not even public. It's public, private, all the bathrooms.
You have to count every individual room, no matter how many stalls there might be. So you got to think a family room. There's going to be one in the suites.
Oh shit! 500?
Nowhere near.
979
bathrooms in US Bank
Holy
Stadium.
Cow!
So I immediately called
the
BS
NFL
on this, and Adam came with receipts. He's like, "No, I'm googling it now. I think this is legitimate." Why?
Those numbers are insane. And Smith said he's going to call or talk to someone and check out, see make sure. And I'm kind of waiting to get that confirmation because the next most is 297 at Allegiant Stadium, and I don't know.
I know who you can ask for that. We can't reveal sources, but that's
fun. I got my guy. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to bring it up in conversation at some point. Like, hey, I have a stupid question, but we're wondering. I couldn't believe that 100 bathrooms seems like it's too many.
Well, but if you think about it, though, I remember from the brief tour that I got at US Bank Stadium, like you said, all the coaches have their individual offices. I assume there's a bathroom in each one of those. I can't believe we're kicking the show off with this. Talking about bathrooms.
I figured we start off something with fun,
It is funny. I like it.
It's so good. Andrew,
almost 1,000 bathrooms. That's wild.
It's a lot of toilet paper.
It's a big building. Well, how many people does it seat? Quite a few.
60-some thousand, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say 70, but 70-ish, maybe just shy of it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely wild. But the biggest news from the off season here so far recently is that the salary cap number had been dropped, and the Vikings have a lot of cash to spend.
A lot of cash.
$279.2 million for the season in 2025. And that means the Minnesota Vikings will have $63.1 million in salary cap space, and if they don't spend that on a quarterback, they're going to have some good money to throw around.
Where does that rank them on cap space? Like, are they top 5 available?
I'm going to look right now. Just filibuster, and I
don't know.
I assume that's got to put them very near the
it's
top
so
of
nice
the
that a lot of that dead cap money that was in the past is not quite there anymore, because I know Rick Spielman liked kicking that can and doing a lot of those seasons where they could throw money back after the player's gone, and sure there's still a little bit of that in Minnesota, but right now that salary cap number looks real good, especially since they don't have a lot of draft picks.
They are sitting at number 7, right behind the Chargers, just in front of the Bengals. Adam is right. $63,032,543. They only have $10 million in dead cap this year, so pretty good. They have $211.3 million to spend.
Nice. Yeah, credit to Kevin O'Connell talking about the dead cap space that they had. Because I remember that was a topic we talked about on the show a while back about how they would potentially, they're going to have to eat crow a little bit and just deal with not having as much money. And you're thinking, God, this is going to be a rebuild year and it's not going to be too good. And that never really feels like it happened. Like they kind of ate their crow on salary cap and was able to maintain and win a lot of games. That's why he was, NFL
you can
coach
kind of
of the year.
Quincy Mensa is a money guy, numbers guy.
Right.
That he's able to come in and rework some of these contracts, get rid of those old bloated ones, and get the team in a situation where they have the ability to rebuild. And then he went in kind of all in last year with the draft, got 2 first-round picks, one on offense, one on defense.
Yep.
So this year's draft is going to feel a little weak, but there is that talent from last year's draft that still we haven't really felt the force of yet. So that's a good sign, I think.
And I love what they've done. Taking care of the salary cap, Adam. I'm with you 100% on that. Don't quite love how they've handled the draft picks. I don't like not having the capital heading into this year's draft. I'm a big believer in you build your team through the draft. But yeah, man, they've got the money to spend though in this off season to kind of make up for the fact that we don't have a hell of a lot of picks in this year's draft. Let's
be kind of honest. Would you rather have a second and third this year or Dallas Turner last year?
Yeah. Okay, so Dallas Turner is long-term going to be, I still believe, an excellent pick for the Vikings. He's just kind of been buried a little bit on the depth chart. So, yeah, that is going to work. That will work.
His sack rate last year was amazing. He might not have gotten the time on the field compared to the other rookie defenders, but when it comes to production, he was up there with the best of them. So, I mean, be patient. Don't throw out, he's a bust. Because will hear that quite a bit, and I have. And that is absolutely not right.
It's a dumb thing to say. I've been such a sourpuss this offseason. I got kind of burnt out and disappointed by the Vikings. And then hearing these things like the Dallas Turner's a bust. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, simply, as the young kids say now, you don't know ball. You don't know what you're talking about. How can he be a bust if he can't get on the field because the 2 guys in front of him are legitimate Pro Bowlers and they're like probably top 5 in any team this year, free agent signings.
Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter was always a good player, but he didn't turn into the player that we remember him as until year 4, when he finally gets an opportunity to go out there and get in that starting role for that. You ease Dallas Turner into this, man. You don't gotta rush these rookies.
I think it's just frustrating when you have to say things that I guess I think are obvious, and to say Dallas Turner is a bust. Well, if he started every defensive snap and he had 2 sacks on the year and his job is to rush a passer, yeah, that would be a very disappointing rookie year. But explaining the obvious to people, that's the part where I've really gotten irritated with the social media landscape and even some of the major sports networks and shows where they the JJ McCarthy stuff. Well, he had two knee surgeries. No, he didn't. He didn't.
way
Well, the one is just a
overblown.
cleanup procedure, but I mean, I see how people could be a little panicked about it. They want to hitch their wagons to him, and they hear that he went in for a small procedure, and I get overreacting about that a little bit if you don't really do a lot of reading on what's going on.
Catching up on the comments here. What's up, Skull Soda? Glad you could make it while we were live. Andrew said, "How much for a loaner to start the season at left tackle?" That's funny. Wes brought this up, and I wanted to bring it up again. Shout out to Wes. We always love when you join the show. Ty Robinson would look great in a Vikings uniform. D lineman from Nebraska. He ran a 4.8 at the 40 today. Mark my words, some team is going to love that they picked him. Well, we certainly could use a defensive lineman. I think that's an area of need. I don't know how far up it is on the Vikings board, but I think that's an area they will address at some point.
4.8
Yeah,
for
with
a
all the
defensive
salary cap
lineman.
space they're going to be able to work around and then be able to take some draft picks. I don't know where he's projected to go, but I still have that gut feeling that it's going to be some sort of defensive back in the first round, unless they have the running back of running backs fall to them.
Yeah.
I think this is another year, and I saw this from your guy Adam Patrick writing it, checking up on your articles. I went not on a show day, Adam. I clicked through some of your articles the other day just to read them, and yeah, Adam Patrick had a thought that I think is probably the most percentage chance to happen with the lack of draft capital they do have. Wouldn't be surprised if they trade out of the first round. They're at a spot that's not like picking at 10 last year or 11, then moving to 10. You're at the risk of like missing out on that prospect you want. But generally, the census is this year that this isn't like an overwhelming draft with talent and why you could stockpile some picks, and they certainly need the help. Now they are seventh, as we said, overall in salary cap space. And this point here, every NFC North team, it's actually the top 13. You were close, West. The lowest number cap space is occupied by the Packers. Packers have 48 million. The Lions have 51, the Vikings have 63, and the Bears have 79 million to spend. So, indeed, it's going to be a crazy free agency period.
And a lot of Vikings fans had Trey Smith as their number one target free agent, and Kansas City is going to franchise tag him, so he's not even going to be available.
Wow, I don't know what position Trey Smith plays. I feel
he is
bad.
A guard.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what, Adam, that's a great segue. I know I just talked for a second, but I'll go on my little rant so we can start this now. Eagles won the Super Bowl. I think they showed you the model, like that GM. You got Doug Peterson and Nick Foles statue. That GM needs a statue outside of his place, and I'm dead serious. Howie Roseman needs a statue in front of Philly. You have to build within the trenches, and if you're going to go with the rookie quarterback, which is what I feel like they're going to do, you have to protect him at all costs, especially now that he's already, got the injury thing, even though I hope it's not a thing. Really, I had PTSD. I just texted my buddy, shout out to Matt. I was like, I really hope JJ McCarthy's not Teddy 2.0. I really hope that's not what it is. Maybe it's just the memories.
You mean like he blows both his knees out or something like that?
Well, he already blew his knee out. Now I'm hoping it's not just like, oh, we drafted a career backup in the first round again. Like, that would suck. But I'm being pessimistic there. My point for saying you brought up the guard from Kansas City, I really, really personally, the Kyle Smith draft strategy is we built the best offensive line in football. I could care less about everything else. I like most of the roster. There are still holes after that, but I said it, and I'm going to pound the table again until the draft. I said it on one of the most recent episodes we did together. They have neglected the interior of the offensive line and kind of been bargain bin shopping outside of, yeah, we try to get a guy here. Like Garrett Bradbury's been okay, but I'm a terrible football fan. I'm always flirting with like, yeah, the Vikings are my girlfriend, and I like this, but I'm always looking to do better.
I'm going to say something a little bold with this upcoming draft. If the Minnesota Vikings trade down in the first round, I'm going to be severely disappointed because this draft does not have the depth even in the mid to late rounds that the previous draft or next year's draft will likely have. I don't think you're going to get the return that you want or the players you want if you trade down. Now, if you're trading a first rounder this year for a higher first rounder next year, or a first rounder and a third rounder or something next year, okay, cool. But like just to trade down in this draft, I think would be a big mistake.
I like it. I have to admit, I don't do a lot of the scouting or whatever else. I'm going based off of what I personally think the Vikings should do based on what we saw. And then we'll make another episode or two or three before the draft because we do our live draft show. When free agency hits, it'll be fun. Like last year, they immediately went and got
This
Sam
is going to
Darnold.
be not to interrupt, but a
Yeah,
wild
yeah.
free agency for the Vikings.
I agree.
Well, it's going to be a wild free agency in general because we got
Yeah.
a lot of players that right now are they are under contract but might not be for long. I mean, Kirk Cousins probably getting released, Aaron Rodgers probably getting released, and those two alone are going to cause enough chaos talking about what happens there.
I mean, there's Matthew Stafford being floated around as a name that
he's flirting. He's flirting right now. It's legit.
Uh-huh.
It's legit. Not to interrupt you now, but it's funny. I consume sports every day in the shower. That's my cup of coffee. I turn on YouTube, whatever pops up, I watch it. And Albert Breer has said it. He's like, "Hey, take it for what it's worth." He's golfing with Tom Brady, who's a part owner of the Raiders. But the problem is the Rams don't want to pay him $50 million a year, but he played well enough to ask for that money. Like Dak Prescott making $60 million a year is absurd. And I think you're going to see a shift going back from that on some levels, not all of them. But this strategy of, well, guy's got to be the highest paid player available. No, he doesn't. I think San Francisco is going to make a major mistake paying Brock Purdy like $48 million a year. But that's
I have two things I want to talk about. It's funny how we're like, there's nothing to talk about. And then we have like 8 things that come up all at once at the same time. So real quick, my first thing, Adam, you remember like 10 years ago, it's funny the difference in kind of like the overall fan mentality. I remember sitting here on this podcast 10 years ago when people would comment and tell us through Twitter or the chat or whatever that offensive linemen are not skill players.
Oh yeah, a dime a dozen.
They're a dime. Yes, they're. It's not a skill position. You don't draft them in the first round, and that like you don't invest in them. And now look at the conversation that like we're having here with Smith, where it's like you have to invest in the trenches and you have to invest in that offensive line. And you were always the champion on the podcast for the line about how that was bullshit and that you have to invest in it. So it is fun to see kind of that dynamic change over the years. The second point I wanted to make, you were just talking about that, Smith, on how each time a player comes up at a position, they feel the need to reset the bar on what they get paid and become the highest paid player at their position. Is Cincinnati going to make a mistake by making Jamar Chase the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL? Like,
without a doubt. They have already said at the combine they will. He wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, and they will make it happen.
Yeah, it's like you're entering the territory, and I know that the cap keeps going up and up and up. But like you are investing so much money in a single player. What happens if they get hurt?
It's the Dallas Cowboys approach, man. Yeah. They're going to do the same thing too. I don't see them moving off of Micah Parsons. I think that would be the economically and business smart move, even though it'll set the team back a little. You can't afford to invest a third of your salary cap in 3 players. Number one, like you said, if they get hurt, but how are you going to provide depth around everyone else? And what does it set the bar for the rest of your team? This is the stuff that average fans don't think about. Okay, Dak and CD and Micah get paid, or Jamar and Joe and maybe T. Higgins get paid in Cincy, right? So what the other guys think like, well, I'm only going to be here for 2 or 3 years, or the rookies are like, I don't think they'll extend me because they can't fucking pay me. I'm not going to take a discount here. I know that guy's really good, but I'm trying to get paid too.
I mean, look in Buffalo, Shakir got $15 million, and I wasn't sure that contract is right for him. And man, the way some of these players are getting paid is crazy. While I'm on this topic, I want to talk about what's going on in chat over here. Rodgers for league minimum? Who's dreaming over here? Rodgers ain't going to take a league minimum, even if he's getting still paid from the Jets. And Kirk Cousins, he ain't taking a league minimum anywhere, even if he's still getting paid from the Falcons. These players aren't going to take a backup role at league minimum to come to a team. Not happening.
I see that a lot too, Adam. Like, and this is just some of the generic Vikings fans. That's right. I said I'm a better Viking fan than a generic one. But they're like, well, you just Sam Darnold should be happy to make $25 million a year. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, literally,
Sign
you're
Kirk Cousins to a backup minimum deal to come back up JJ McCarthy in Minnesota.
Why would he want to?
That's not happening.
Why would he want to do that? I mean, yeah.
We'll
why?
get to this. We'll get to Sam Darnold soon enough. But it's just funny seeing like, well, he should take this, and it's like that's not how the league works. I understand what you're trying to say, but it's the fact that you have to have this conversation. If you just turn on X network, whatever, and they'll tell you and they'll talk about it because they talk about sports ad nauseum. Like Brock Purdy, he's not worth $50 million a year. They have said we are sticking with Brock Purdy. We are going to pay him. Well, he's already took him to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game. Regardless if he's the reason why, he's going to get the money, and the agent is going to ask for that money. So, to think that the guy that's fleeced Minnesota out of 6 years of guaranteed money, and now the Falcons out of 4 years of guaranteed money, is suddenly going to have a change of heart to be like, you know what? I'll come in here for a nickel just because I love the game. That's not how it works. The agents have to get paid, and if
it'd be great if that didn't work that way, though.
If it was for 1 year, like Russell Wilson doing what he did last year, that was to
I could get it maybe if you're chasing a ring, maybe
that chasing a ring, or you do what Russell Wilson did. You say, hey, I'm going to take a flyer on myself, and it's risky, but now look at it. He took another team to the playoffs, and they had a winning record. Now he can say, all right, you don't have to pay me Dak money, but it starts at 35.
And it's weird because reports right now are that the Steelers are really happy with what's going on with Justin Fields, and they're thinking about hitching their wagon to Justin Fields.
You hate Justin Herbert. I hate Justin Fields forever. He sucks. He's so bad. And I understand he towers.
He's so athletic, but man, if he could be a little more accurate.
A lot more accurate. If he could just do the one thing you need a quarterback to do, which is accurately throw a football. Oh, I don't understand the obsession with Justin Fields. Well, the Bears didn't put anything around him. Doesn't matter. He can't throw the ball from A to B.
And I'm going to be a little mean to Caleb Williams here. I like what I've seen from him, but he has a really ugly deep ball.
Nice.
Really ugly. I don't know if you guys have watched him quite a bit last year, but his accuracy on those deep passes leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, did you hear that? You, Caleb Williams. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I felt bad for him. The kid wants to compete, and I hear a lot of good things. Like, he just comes in, like, all the time. Like, he's all about business. But when you bring just that little pizzazz of painting your nails and going, I like it. I like the Bears. I think it's hilarious. But when you do that, you draw attention to yourselves, and then you get the shit kicked out of you the first year you're in the league. It's like, welcome to the NFL, buddy. It sucks.
And expectations were so high for the Bears entering the season. It's wild that they weren't able to do more, especially after they invested so much in that offense,
It's coaching, man. I'll die on that hill.
Yeah.
They did everything on paper they needed to do to support him, but that's just not head coach material there. I'm sure he's a great DC. But, yeah, you gotta get that kid a good coach. I hate saying it. I think the Bears are going to be really good with Ben Johnson. And I'm annoyed that the whole division is going to be really good because it always feels
I'm not sure that Ben Johnson is going to be a good fit for Caleb Williams. I don't know if his skill set really works, at least with what he did previously in Detroit. So I'm interested to see if that marriage can work.
I see why the league does it. I think he'll be good because they're going to put talent there. But selfishly, I hope they suck. I hope the Packers suck too. Yeah. And fuck Detroit because they finally are good for the first time ever. So, to hell with all of them.
So I'm going to spoil one of my article that I'll have coming out in the morning. Apparently, Mekhi Blackman has been fully cleared and ready to return after his ACL tear last summer. And he apparently seems ready for action and ready to roll. So there's one cornerback that wasn't here last year that'll be ready to come back. And honestly, I've liked what I've seen from him. I don't know if I'm ready to ink him into a starting role or anything like that, but if you've got a cornerback that can contribute and possibly have a good role, I'm interested. I'm happy.
I'm not sure if there's anyone on this secondary that you're inking in as a starting role right now for this team, Adam. But
I like McLaughlin. I like quite a few guys, but again, I don't know if they're starters.
He play all four positions at once in the secondary.
Oh, he'll be all over the place. But it does look, too, a little bit more like Harrison Smith is going to come back. That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, I was
that'd be
just reading
fun.
that today. I actually think it was an Adam Patrick article that I seen written about that one that popped up on my feed. And I do think I agree with you as well, Adam. I think that they're probably going to draft a corner, or they're going to try to in the draft this year. And I think that in particular, that's going to be an area where they're going to be really aggressive in free agency on spending some money. I don't know
They
who the
have to
top
be.
I don't know who the top corners are, but I think they're gonna look for that. They're gonna look towards the offensive line. And Harrison Smith coming back for another season in Minnesota. He can still contribute, man. He can still play. I know that he's going to be another year older, but whatever he does, he's got the fountain of youth kind of on his side a little bit right now. So I'm okay with him coming back. I'm okay if they reduce his workload and put him on a little bit of a snap count and try to preserve him for big games towards the end of the season. Great veteran player, great leadership. Love having him on the team. Hall of Fame player, just all around, I think.
So how do you feel about all this JJ McCarthy stuff? Like during his rehab, he ended up losing a lot of weight. Now he's putting some more weight back on, getting ready
Not
for the
concerned.
season. And he's getting a lot of really cool comparisons from Harbaugh there in LA.
Yeah, I did see that. I seen the interview. That's really cool to hear his former coach praising him like that. You can tell he thinks really highly of him, and it's not just like bullshit coach speak. Like he actually really does think really highly of JJ McCarthy. I like that. I'm not at all concerned.
Not only as a player, but as a person. I enjoy seeing all of that.
Right, which is what you want from your quarterback. Not saying that other picks, Christian Ponder was a good person, but
But do you remember when the Vikings had to make that transition? Like when they were drafting, they used to draft a lot of players with really questionable backgrounds, and they cleaned up their act, and things immediately got better.
Yeah, yep. I do think, or I'm not concerned about McCarthy dropping weight and picking it back up. Hey, he's a young kid. I assume there's a difference between rehab training and weightlifting training. So he probably did lose a little bit of weight because he was doing rehab as opposed to now I'm doing condition. Smith, you know what I'm talking about.
You can't stress
exactly
that leg and knee out and do a bunch of that stuff. You have to take it slow, and that's the part of recovery that people are saying, oh my God, he lost this weight. Yeah, he can't do anything. Have you ever been immobile before? It sucks.
Yeah. He's what, 23?
Oh God, if that. I think
he's fine. He's good.
He's so young.
He's fine.
Yeah, it's funny you guys brought up Harbaugh. I like JJ McCarthy. He's no Justin Herbert.
He isn't.
But no, I do love that Harbaugh had such praise for him, man. Actually, shout out again to my buddy Matt. We worked the Super Bowl together not too long ago. He's in Nashville, and he's a big Colts fan. He sent me a picture before the show started. JJ McCarthy was out somewhere in Minnesota and went to like a nursing home and was doing community stuff there. And it was actually a friend of his grandparent. And he's like,
cool.
Yeah, I'm starting to love this kid more and more that I see him. Like, I was out on him last year because I was like, I want Drake May. And now you see, like, okay, maybe they're onto something. So, JJ, we are rooting for you. I would love
some of that stuff is amazing. Like, I don't know if you are on TikTok, but the Buffalo Bills social media loves connecting Josh Allen with the kids at the Children's Hospital, and the stuff that he does with those kids and how much it looks like it touches him is amazing.
He's a good human too. I like him a lot.
I like that Minnesota has these guys coming in that are really good for the community, good for each other in the locker room, especially after so many years of just problematic people and problematic situations. I remember when we were always every offseason just waiting for the next Vikings player to get arrested.
We used to joke about it that will be our off-season topics, like who's going to get arrested, and like, well, how.
And sadly, they didn't usually disappoint.
Yeah.
I'm putting this up here because Andrew put it up there. We got to pay Bynum 5 years. I'm going to go in the opposite direction here. I like Cameron Bynum. I would rather have Byron Murphy. That's just my preference. I know that they play two different positions. I understand that. But we got a whole secondary we got to fill. And if I got to commit to one over the other, I like Byron Murphy just slightly more. I like Cameron Bynum a lot. He's going to get paid regardless of where he goes.
think
Give me whoever's
someone.
cheaper.
Adam, there you go.
I think someone's going to overpay for Bynum in free agency. I like him, but I don't like what he's probably going to get. So I know we need help in the secondary, but I'm a cheap ass. I'm going to pretend that this is my money the Vikings are spending right now, and I'm going to say, no, not going to do that.
And I'm going to be a little bit of this guy, but I don't think the Vikings really need really great cornerbacks in Brian Flores' defense, since it's so predicated on getting pressure and making things easier for the corners. So I'm fine with a B cornerback, as you know, some A safeties are to be in the box and take care of action. I'm better with that. Maybe that's why I'd lean a little bit towards Bynum.
You're right.
I just want one, Adam. I want one A corner and one A safety, and then the other two can be anywhere of that B plus down to B minus. That's all I care. You don't have to have DJ Reader and what's his name, a Sauce. Like we don't have to have the Jet secondary. That's fine. But I'd like one or the other.
I'm old school. I always want that true number one shutdown lockdown corner. Like
those are great to have.
Like I know, like
Patrick Surtain right now, dude. He's unreal.
Yeah, I don't care what defensive scheme you run, 3-4-4-3, whatever. We
could even see the Vikings go and grab another older corner that had success in the past that they could bring in for, $7-8 million for a year just to be a stopgap, so they could fill in maybe more holes next year and not have to be as pressured to fill in gaps this offseason.
Here we go. Free agent cornerbacks as of January 23rd of this year.
Patrick Peterson.
There's been a lot of rumblings for that guy from the Jets. For some reason, I can't remember his name right now.
DJ Reed, number 1. Free agent rank, number 6 overall, number 1 corner.
Yeah, he's been kept in Minnesota a lot.
Number 2, this is from PFF. Number 2, Charvarius Ward from the Niners, overall rank 13 out of all the free agents this year. 3, Rasul Douglas from the Bills. Byron Murphy Jr., number 4, 18th overall. 5, Carlton Davis from the Lions. And Asante Samuel Jr. from the Chargers is number 6. Wow. Number 8 corner, Stephon Gilmore, 66th of the free agent rank. Well, a little bit long in the tooth there.
He's kind of a bit older. Is Patrick Peterson on there?
Oh, God. Let's see. Number 10, 11, Christian Fulton. I remember when I wanted him on the Vikings a few years ago.
Because as far as I know, Patrick Peterson hasn't hung it up yet. And for a while there, he was campaigning a little bit to come back to Minnesota. So who knows?
He's not on that list, Adam. This is from January 14th, unless they have added anything else in there. The Vikings only have 4 picks this year.
Wasn't he playing safety for a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Pittsburgh?
And also keep in mind, though, Minnesota is likely to get a third-round comp pick for the Kirk Cousins signing.
That's what it shows. A first, a third comp pick, and 2 fifths. So not a lot going there. That's why I was leaning towards a trade back, because I thought they would at least want 5 or 6 picks in this draft. But who knows what they're going to do. At this point, I don't know. I know that last season, this general manager did great in the free agent process, but he has yet to blow me out of the water personally for drafting. I like Jordan Addison.
Let's be honest, Kwesi made some swings that he connected on. I mean, I had no idea that Van Ginkel would have the production that he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, free agency-wise, last year was one of the best years.
Both were guys coming off with, career seasons, and you didn't know if they'd be able to sustain that. So the fact they were able to come in and play at a high level is fantastic.
Yeah, the free agency stuff really sold me last year. I want to see him nail some draft picks, I think we all are a little bitter, especially after the Super Bowl when he actually went to Philly and got a ring. The Lewis Cine pick is very annoying. You want to see him nail it in the draft, especially the early picks, because you want to see a first or a second or a third round guy last for a while. But I'm not ready to jump ship on Kwesi just yet. He's still got
I did like the Lewis Cine highlights out of college, but sadly that never translated to the NFL.
Yeah, was never able to get that to translate. Yeah, like you said, into the pros for him. What's frustrating is that, and I get it because I'm irritated with his drafting overall as a general manager. But we don't know yet on J.J. McCarthy. That's a big question mark. And if he hits that, if J.J. McCarthy lives up to the potential and the hype that we think he can, I mean, this isn't even a conversation that we're having anymore. Like, if you find the franchise quarterback of the future for the Minnesota Vikings, like,
That's a good
hey,
point.
whatever else you did in the draft, go for it.
Yeah, he's still got like McCarthy and Turner out there as like capital
Well,
that we don't know what it is yet,
yeah,
or what it
Turner
really
was
can be.
Turner was, he's a first round pick, but it's like you almost have to evaluate him like a quarterback. You're not going to know until year 3 or 4 when he finally moves fully into that starting lineup and that starting position out there on the team as to how good that pick was. And we'll see. It's we'll be talking about this all off season. We don't know yet, but like JJ McCarthy starting for the Vikings in 2025, like what's your guys' gut right now? What do you think?
I think it makes sense for what they're trying to do and how they're trying to build. Look at last year. Sam Darnold did so well because they were able to go spend in free agency. You don't get to do that when you sign a quarterback for 40 or $50 million a year. Now, that'll be a problem in a couple of years when JJ McCarthy flourishes and does great in this system, like I hope he does.
Yeah.
But as it is right now, you got, and Albert Breer said this today. I can't remember if it was on Dan Patrick or Rich Eisen, but he said, I don't think the Vikings are going to just have some run of the mill, like no name guy at backup. He's like, they're going to have depth at backup. So I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to stay or how it's going to work. But if you're going with JJ, which I think they will, that should be the way forward because you can afford to pay a Van Ginkel and a Jonathan Grenard and then go find a corner, a safety, a lineman, and then you have a more complete team. And I'm going to drive this into the ground. Do what the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, and what the Niners did about 3 years ago. Build a team that way, and you will go
Yeah.
farther. You got to try to
It's
do
funny
that.
you mentioned Daniel Jones as a high end backup because apparently the Arizona Cardinals feel the same way and have shown a lot of interest in Daniel Jones this offseason.
He's going to get a lot of interest out there too, and it'll be fun to see what kind of decision he makes. And like, for his career path, put yourself in his shoes. What's the right decision and the wrong decision? Because I can tell you what I think the wrong decision would be for him to think that, hey, midway through last year, I was able to come to the Vikings, and that counts as my whole. Hey, I was able to rehab myself underneath Kevin O'Connell for 5-7 weeks that he was here, and
Yep.
I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna start for some shitty team, and guess what? I'm still gonna be Daniel Jones. What I think he should do, and the smart thing for him to do, man, is to take that year off, be a backup, come into Minnesota and be the backup, and just take another year to like fully reset yourself, like what Sam Darnold did,
Can I
and
can I go
go.
further on that when you're
Yeah,
done, Kyle? Because I
no, go
really
for it.
this is how I want it to go. Right. I think with Sam Darnold's play, say what you want about the last 2 games of the season. Sam Darnold had one of the best Viking quarterback seasons
Yeah,
ever in history. It's wild when you really go back and look at it. We have sour grapes for the last 2 weeks. Dude was fucking phenomenal last year. He's played himself into the conversation of, in my opinion, he's the best free agent quarterback out there by far. Cousins looks not like himself. Rodgers definitely is. Just with the drama alone, he's not gonna be covered. You got to remember,
I
Sam Darnold's 27. He's
I
27.
I am not touching either of those two with a 10-foot pole.
No,
Like I'm
and
not.
Russell Wilson, like maybe 6 years ago, if he was free, sure. But my
If
point is,
I'm hey, if I'm Pete Carroll, hey Russ, you want to come in and be my backup and it'll be a fun story, sure, whatever. But other than that, I don't need Russell Wilson really
here,
either.
here's what I was gonna say: is Sam Darnold played for 10 million last year, right? If Daniel Jones, you sign him to 20 mil, whatever, because it goes up a little bit, and you tell him and JJ and sit them both down, and say competition's open, somebody come take the starting job, and you paid him
Yeah,
20 mil. I am 1,000,000% down with that. I think it'll light a fire under both their asses based on their situations, which are totally different. And it's a 1 year deal. If you want to do it, cool. Go out and be the MVP. Maybe we'll sign you, Daniel Jones. JJ, you had your year to recover and you got to see the playbook. Like, you go do your thing. That's what, I don't know. That's what I feel should happen. I don't know what the Sam Darnold thing is, and we can talk about Sam now because we're kind of there. I don't know about the Sam Darnold thing because I don't know what the Vikings number is, and I truly don't know if they want to sign him, tag him, and trade him, or if they just want to try to think. I think it's the best situation.
Yeah, 100%.
But the money, I don't see him doing that. I don't think they're going to waste. I don't say waste. That's the wrong word. I don't think they're going to spend 2/3 of the free money that they have on a quarterback when they just drafted 1/10 overall. Like, it doesn't.
It's an interesting conversation to have because JJ McCarthy screws everything up. in a weird way, he kind of does. Because if it was just Sam Darnold and Nick Mullins as your quarterback options on this team, like, you're 100% not even having this conversation. Like, you're re-signing Sam Darnold and, like, you're rolling with him for the next 4 or 5 years as our guy. And honestly, it's probably the smart thing that you probably should do. But you invested in JJ McCarthy, and through the 3/4 of a preseason game that we got to see him play in, we all believe that he can lead the Minnesota Vikings to the promised land, right? Because we're naive and we want to do that. But it's like, it really, the McCarthy really changes what the Vikings are doing at the quarterback position.
But another thing you got to remember too is that there is no rush to get McCarthy in the lineup. They still have him for 3 more years, and they could still, use that 1 year, 50-year option on him to keep him around for another year. So if he is not 100% ready for this year, don't throw him in the lineup.
Is he a good enough kid? Is he a mature enough kid? And I think he is. That if we're going to do an open competition with Danny Dimes, and hey, Daniel Jones legitimately beats you out in training camp, and he beats you out.
I think mentally
in
he's
preseason.
Strong enough.
Is he okay to handle that, or are you going to ruin him?
Well, look kind of what happened in Carolina. I mean, they benched their starting quarterback, and all it did was really light a fire under him. And when he came back, he was better than ever.
Yeah,
I'm reading stupid tea leaves on this, Kyle, but I gotta say it. I follow the kid on social media, and legitimately every day of the season, I'm talking like 5 times a day, he's posting like Gandhi, motivational shit from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, I don't for a second think he's not mature enough to handle it. It would suck, but I also, like, I get what Adam is saying. Like, the last thing you want to do is put him out there prematurely and you ruin his career.
Yeah.
And the other part is the wild card and the least likely thing I think would happen. But let's say they like Sam, and Sam comes in and says, "Hey, look, I don't want to play for $10 million. I think I've earned more than that. Will you sign me for $39 million a year, just under, for 3 or 4 years?" What if they traded JJ McCarthy to a team and said, "Hey, sorry, Sam's only 27." That's also an option. I think that's like a less than 5%
That narrative
chance.
is definitely out there. I've heard that from some experts and analysts as a possibility, a real idea.
Because think about this. This is why I bring this up, Adam. Because if he would have came out this year, no matter the results, he would have been the number 1 quarterback. And that's what they keep saying is like, Shadur Sanders is cool. They comped him to Teddy Bridgewater. I really like that comparison when I watch him play. I think that's great. Cam Ward's a fucking monster. He's an athlete, but I don't know if he can play, NFL call. So you have 2 of the main guys, but last year's class was wild. 6 in the top 12 is insane. They don't have that this year. So that I've heard before too, Adam, and I'm like, I think it's the least likely of the scenarios. But it all depends on Sam, honestly. When the Sam domino drops, we'll have our answer and it'll be there.
Yeah, you're right. You can go, Adam.
Quarterback play around the league is so weird. I mean, if you would have thought that the Denver Broncos would be able to get Bo Nix where they did, and that he would play the way he did, and be a guy that they are going to be able to hitch their wagons to for many, many years. I mean, last year's draft is going to have a lot of really great players. Jaden Daniels he looked phenomenal. I can't really see a flaw in his play. That's what's amazing.
That's a good point. He's so good. I like those stories. Like Joe Burrow did it, and then so did, and they're Heisman winners too. Going from a smaller school or going from a different school to another and getting that chance. Like, I think Jaden Daniels, where was he at before? Somewhere in Vegas or near, like, somewhere in the western part of the country. And then he goes to LSU. Same thing with Joe Burrow. He just sat on the bench for years at Ohio State. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to go to LSU and I want to get my shot. these guys that go through that early do very well. Like I didn't think the Commanders were going to be that good this year.
No,
especially not knocking off the 1 seed Lions in Detroit. Like that's wild.
And it's weird because a lot of people had a lot higher hopes for Drake May.
Yeah.
As being that kind of prospect. And, sure, if you watched his tape in college, you could see how he could be a good pro. And maybe he will be. But last year just wasn't really his year.
That team sucks so bad. It's funny you brought them up, Adam. They were so bad. They had the 1 year in place for Gerard. They did Gerard Mayo fucking dirty. And
yeah, they did.
They did him so dirty with that. Knowing
Kyle
he
West,
wasn't going to be
name one wide receiver for the New England Patriots.
I can't do that. I'm not even going to try.
They have $127 million in cap space.
Yeah, they had no talent last year.
You want to know it's my team's pick for worst to first candidate? I don't think they're going to win the AFC East, but I think major fucking turnaround, and they're drafting in like the top 5. They're going to be much improved, and I understand like they did Gerard Mayo dirty, but they got Mike Vrabel in the building. You don't think that dude's going to come in there and run that shit like Belichick did? The Patriots are going to be very good very quickly.
Titans were idiots for firing Mike Vrabel. I still don't understand that one.
They got rid of Mike Vrabel, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry all within 3 years. You understand how stupid they are? What a terrible, terrible franchise.
Pretty wild. While we're talking about coaches, though, I do want to say that the Vikings did hire their new assistant offensive line coach, Keith Carter, who used to be for the Jets. And I like the idea of anybody coming in that could work with this offensive line and maybe get something different going.
Bit of a controversy, though. I know there was a report that maybe some players didn't like him. I don't know. Did you read anything about that, Adam?
I have not heard, so I'm interested.
Yeah, there was one of the top free agents basically said in one of his interviews that he did not get along with that coach. So that's caused a little. Yeah,
It's the Vikings got all these A+ player grades. We need some friction in the building. Let's bring some drama in. Let's spice that shit up.
Let's bring some drama.
Yeah, did you guys see that the Minnesota Vikings scored second in that list of team environments for players again?
Coach got an A+, facilities got an A. Like it's just
I think the only thing that pulled them down was an A- weight room.
I've been in that weight room. They're fucking full of shit.
Yeah, what more do you want?
There's like 15 squat racks. There's a whole cardio thing upstairs, and it leads right to the outside practice field. They have garage doors. Like, what do you guys want?
A- ain't bad.
Yeah. I guess if you had to knock something, like, they got to find something wrong. It can't be perfect, but that speaks to how much the Wilfs have done. They don't get enough credit for actually going above and beyond. Because, fun fact, I had to share it. Shout out to my buddy Dave. He's my local resident Philly fan. He's a very happy camper right now. Out of the top, I think, 13 teams since the Super Bowl was created, we're the only team in the top 13 that has a nice winning record and never won a championship. You got to think, when owners, they haven't won a championship, but they invest in the team. They don't have to do that. Look at the Bengals. They have to walk across the street to go to practice. I think the Steelers share.
What's happened at Viking Lakes there, it's amazing. The Wilfs have invested so much in those practice facilities, the surrounding area. Mm-hmm. They got that hotel there now. I still haven't been there, but
so
it's
nice.
Amazing.
And what I was saying too, the Bengals, and then I think the Steelers, they're connected to the Penn State facilities. Like, you're professional football team, especially a rich history like the Steelers, and to go cheap on that, that's got to be embarrassing. But I think it's a good thing for the league to let this information out, because it's going to hold some of these teams a little more accountable. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if they don't want to put out the checkbook for that, but look, even Jerry Jones' stupid ass does that. He's like, well, if we're going to be the franchise and the face of the league, I got to have some A+ facilities. So at least they do that. But it's weird to see some of these places like Arizona. Remember, Arizona was charging their players to get food. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing? This isn't a military chow hall. What are you thinking? Crazy,
wild stuff. But it's always great to see that kind of stuff around the league where Minnesota's getting some respect. Oh, Red McCombs. I can't believe he almost sent the Vikings to San Antonio. That's wild.
That would have been gross.
I don't know how I would have found another team to like, because I don't know if the San Antonio Vikings would have been a good one for me.
That would have sucked for me. I would have had been a Panthers fan, and they're dog shit. they're so bad. Oh man.
So last year there was only 10 teams that had a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver, and the Minnesota Vikings were one of them. So good for them.
Good job. 59 yards a game. Love
Hey,
that.
for Aaron Jones to be able to do that, with his injury history, play all those games, I'll take it.
That's a good point. I would love to see him come back. I think we can talk about that, and maybe if you guys have got anything else, I don't have anything else, but the running backs in this class, I think that and the D line are the deepest positions in this draft. At least that's what I've heard. My North Carolina Tar Heels have a really badass running back coming out. I think with the resurgence of Saquon and Derrick Henry looked great at his older running back age, and Josh Jacobs was really good. Aaron Jones, respectfully. I hope that Aaron Jones will come back, maybe at the same price tag or maybe $1 million more. Would you guys be upset if that's where they went for their first pick?
I know that both sides have already expressed interest in Aaron Jones coming back, but I also don't think that would stop Minnesota from using a top pick on a running back if they really believed that they could help the team. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Vikings offense right now is pretty loaded, and if they could bring Aaron Jones back, there's no real reason to improve upon the offense other than hopefully plugging in some new guards or maybe a center or something like that. But as far as the skill positions, they're doing pretty good.
You know what? I'll do it. Adam, what did you say earlier? You're like, hey, I'm going to have kind of a hot take. What was your hot take again?
I did not want the Vikings to trade down in this draft.
Okay, I'm going to do my hot take of the day. I think the Vikings will draft a running back at some point in this draft because we looked it up before, and this is how my squirrel brain works. I was going through my encyclopedia of topics we've been over in the last 6 months. This free agent running back class is dog water. It's awful. It's so bad. I don't think
Najee Harris is probably the headline that everybody seems to want in Minnesota, and I don't know.
I'd rather have Aaron Jones back. But you need to have depth, and what better way than to go get one of these stud running backs at the end of the first round if that's how they do best player available, and that I don't think Genty's going to be there from Boise State, but maybe the kid from North Carolina sitting there at 21, wherever they're drafting, and maybe that's what you do. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think a great running game is proven, especially in late January, that would be very beneficial. But I'm with you. If they're going to draft it, this is such a generic blanket statement I'm saying.
If you don't have a Henry or a Barkley, bring in two guys to be running backs and work together in a committee is not a bad idea whatsoever.
Yep.
Shit, remember last time they went to the NFC Championship game? It was Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray. Like, you can do it, but blanket statement I'm saying here, but whatever you don't address in the draft, obviously you got to spend money on in free agency. It's going to be interesting once that third week of March gets here and that all the big names drop. It's going to be interesting to see because then we'll get a little more clearer picture of.
Well, right now, running back from Minnesota is pretty much Ty Chandler, and I am not in on that.
No. We got to do some upgrading there.
If they can bring Aaron Jones back and draft a player, that locker room, that position room might look a lot better, or at least a lot more talented. Because it's not that I don't believe in Ty Chandler; it's just I don't think he's ready for any sort of feature position in any way.
I agree. Yeah, I don't mind him staying on the team, but if that's your starter, you're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, so at the Combine, we had a lot of talk from Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, but in normal tradition, it was all a lot of vague speak and coach speak, and there wasn't a lot that was said, but what was said was, they have a lot of money, they have some free agents they want to bring back. No names in particular. They did say that they enjoyed, Sam Darnold's play, and they feel like he's going to get a healthy contract and play well somewhere in 2025. And it was all general statements like that you're not going to get a lot of weight out of, but a lot of excitement for J.J. McCarthy as well, and you can't blame that. And Kwesi Adofo-Mensah talked about a lot of the free agents that he brought in last year, and that he's ready to evaluate some talent this year and be ready for the draft. And honestly, with everything going on at the Combine right now, it's great to see that Minnesota is focusing on the future, and I love that.
That's why I was saying earlier, Adam, that I feel like they're going to stick with him because for the hand that they kind of barely revealed, they did speak at like he's doing great. They're giving these updates. Like it sounds like they're going to let Sam test the market, and like JJ's not going anywhere. But is he going to be the starter? That's forever away to be determined. But
it is a little weird that Quisido-Pimenta didn't receive an extension at the same time as Kevin O'Connell, but again, I don't think there's a big rush to get it done either.
Supposedly, the Wilfs are waiting to see how this draft shakes out before they give him a contract extension, which is kind of odd because, like, you don't know immediately after the draft whether or not you've won it or how well you've done or not done or whatever.
Well, those grades come out immediately after the draft and people give them A's and F's, so who knows?
Remember that year the Vikings, Rick Spielman, had the most draft picks in the history of the draft?
Yeah, it was like 12 to 14 or something like that. It was crazy.
And they all sucked.
I love those pictures, like, the Vikings put out every year the draft class, and, like, it was always, like, 14 guys standing there. And, like, last year, what was it, like, 8 guys? Maybe 4
this year
5?
it's going to be... This year will be what, like 3 people?
Well, let's put it into perspective too, guys. Just trying to visualize your point for anyone that might be listening. You can officially now, if you use the timeline that most professionals and the guys in the business use, you can finally address the Lewis Seam draft because it's been 3 years. That's how long it takes.
Yeah.
The very first draft that Quesi's done, he's got 3 under his belt. You can finally look at that draft class and give a proper evaluation according to most. So that's funny that you mentioned it that way, Adam. It kind of registers in my brain. It's like, well, how are you going to know? Because you're not going to know until 2028. But sure, whatever.
And we are going to get slightly political here for a moment because Chris Kluwe had been arrested recently, and he was fired from his coaching job at California High School because of it.
I didn't know he was coaching at a high school.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand doing what you believe in and being vocal about it and whatever, but today your words will have repercussions.
Did you guys see the full video? He could have said what he said and been totally fine, and then he chose to walk where he was not supposed to walk on this meeting. It was his decision.
He could have just went and sat back down after what he said. It looked like they weren't going to give him too much.
100%. This is the kind of drama that even if you agree with him, I don't miss this shit at all being attached to the Vikings in the off season. Like, dude, like you're not. Now I'm gonna get pissed. You're not on Twitter. You're in a public social space. There are rules that we've all agreed upon. You chose not to follow them. These are the consequences. You knew. Correct. You knew what you were doing. So I'm glad you got fired.
If he's okay with getting fired and he doesn't care and he's using that as like his speaking point, okay, like I get it because he's not physically hurting anybody. But I haven't followed it at all. I just know he got kicked out for something. Adam says, "Hey, let's get political for a second." So I'm guessing it's something to do with the new president or something like that. But I'm thinking like, if you do that and then you go out and say, "Well, I can't believe I got fired." Okay, well, touch a stove when it's red and tell me how your hand feels afterwards. Like,
yeah,
like you were. That's the stuff I don't like.
Yeah. Let's get back into talking about the Combine because there's something really interesting that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Shedeur Sanders, what do you guys feel about him?
I think that he is going to be the most interesting prospect coming out of this year's draft because he has all the potential in the world, but I don't know. I don't know, dude. Like, for one thing,
he was walking around the NFL Combine with a backpack, and he had 3 hats attached to that backpack: the Cleveland Browns, the New Orleans Saints, and the Minnesota Vikings.
He is so much like his dad, for one thing. Like, that is 100% something that Deion Sanders would do.
I just thought that was super interesting and wanted to bring that up. Because he will be one of the most talked about prospects in this draft.
You know what's interesting about him, and I don't know the credit to give this to, it's just one of the many pods that I listen to. but he was sacked so many times
Yeah.
in Colorado. That's the driving point and the selling point to say he's going to be all right in the NFL, because legitimately it can't get much worse. And he's going to have the most unique guidance because his dad knows the NFL in and out. He's one of the best players ever. And
well, we see that too, and then we saw what happened with Marvin Harrison and Marvin Harrison Jr. and that whole licensing fee stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what the other side of the coin is with Shadir, though? To my knowledge, he's never been not coached by his dad. Like, Dion has been his head coach through high school, through college, through like flag football, whatever. So how is he going to handle? And I think this is a legitimate question. How is he going to handle going into another organization and being told by a positional coach, you need to do X, Y, and Z because you're not as good as what you think you are at this level? How is he going to handle that?
That's a good point.
I honestly don't know.
See, do you think Sanders is just a fan of the Minnesota Vikings, or do you think like he thinks that there's a possible opportunity for him to talk with the Vikings at the Combine and maybe find his way to this franchise?
I think
if his dad said while he was getting drafted, "What pick are you?" I ain't gonna be there. There's no chance. That's all smoke and mirrors. I don't believe that for a second. So I don't know. Maybe it's just to get people talking.
I think the kid probably recognizes that Kevin O'Connell is an excellent head coach, a great offensive-minded head coach. And if you're a young kid and you're like, hey, who would I want to be coached by in the NFL currently? Kevin O'Connell would have to be one of your top choices. Like, give me Andy Reid.
Coach of the year, man.
Yeah, right? I don't think it goes any deeper than that, though, because he's not falling to the Vikings. The Vikings are not trading up to draft him. Like, that's not a scenario that's going to happen.
I saw Pro Football Focus said that the Vikings are one of the most desperate teams entering this year's draft, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
I don't agree with that either. I don't think they're desperate. Don't get me wrong,
I would love to see Minnesota upgrade their offensive line, upgrade their defensive line, grab some cornerbacks, but I don't think that they lack the ability to do that this offseason.
The wording on that's weird. I don't think they're desperate. I think they are eager, and I think I just had the word at the tip of my tongue. That wording is weird. Desperate means like you're going to do something crazy because
desperate would be we got to trade Justin Jefferson because we need draft picks to draft Shadir Sanders.
Like Minnesota doesn't have talent at key positions. I mean, they've got good pass rushers, some good receivers. They got a quarterback that's ready to take action. They got great bookends on their offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see desperate.
Yeah, desperate's not the word.
Yeah.
I think they have something to prove. I think this is definitely themselves. Yeah, they have to prove themselves, but I don't think that makes them desperate in any way. Like, it's not like, most of these teams that need a quarterback, they are kind of desperate because there's not a lot.
Won 14 games last season,
right?
And they aren't losing that many players. They are losing quite a few corners, but they can reload at that spot. They can.
I think the teams that don't have a quarterback are desperate, but at least they have one that they drafted.
I also think teams in bad coaching situations or GM positions would be a lot more desperate than Minnesota at this point.
The Giants are desperate.
The biggest losers of last offseason.
I'm serious, Giants. Dude. Like,
shout out to my new neighbor. If you're watching this, Josh, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry because he's like, hey, make sure you mention my Giants. The biggest losers of the offseason last year, the poor New York Giants. And let's be real. Let's talk about the Giants for half a second. If you would have kept Saquon last year, he wouldn't have.
It wouldn't have mattered.
He wouldn't have had the year that he had in Philly because their entire roster is unfair. Like, did you make the wrong choice choosing Daniel Jones at that crossroads over him? Absolutely, but you kind of had to go with the quarterback. I don't know. It's weird.
You talk about coaches being on a hot seat. That general manager, his seat isn't just hot; it's a volcano. And that head coach is on a hot seat. I don't see how.
Sucks, man. I like Brian Daboll a lot.
I do too. But
such good stuff with Josh Allen in Buffalo.
I don't see how either of them make it past week 8 of the regular season
There's
next
Kyle
year.
West hot take. There it is.
And let's be
I just
super honest. How long are the coach and GM going to last in Jacksonville?
Duval.
I kind of want him to be good. I don't know. I'm kind of rooting
Somebody
for
said
Because
him.
they
that too.
both
I
seem
think it
like
was
really young and inexperienced and overly eager, and I don't think that's a good combination.
somebody
I
said that. I think it was on McAfee not too long ago. It's like if you're just a goober and that's who you are, like I'm rooting for you. But
That's okay.
that was fucking weird. So maybe you're just a goober and that's okay. But he
well,
did
the
it.
head
He did
coach.
it
I
on the
mean,
second conference because it got so much attention. They asked him about it, and he did it again on day 2. And I'm like, brother, who is coaching you right now in your PR department? Because they are failing the shit out of you. Stop doing that. Stop.
so
Don't do that anymore.
the Miami's head coach. I know where you're going with this analogy. Miami's head coach he's a goober, right?
Correct.
Right.
Oh
He's
yeah.
also really good at his job. So like it's okay. It's okay. He's just being himself.
I think they're good. I think they just made a massive mistake signing Tua to an extended contract. I think
Yeah.
he's pretty good at what he does. He's a literal football nerd. I think he's probably very good at his job, but you can't have I can't say
Jacksonville,
it.
man. Like it. The way they run the Jaguars and the way AEW is ran,
The
Adam.
Cleveland Browns of the AFC South, the
It's just
Jacksonville Jaguars.
it's the exact same thing. Like you can tell that Tony Khan is that you can just tell that, man.
Oh yeah.
Like
And to close this out on a little bit of Minnesota Vikings news, did you guys see that the Minnesota Vikings moved the void date back on Byron Murphy's contract this season?
I did see that. I'm not smart enough to know if that means
That
anything.
means
So
that
this
means
gives them
they
more
kind
time
of
to
had
negotiate some kind of deal.
yes. That gives them more time to play around. This happened not too long ago, a couple of years ago, with another player. So that means they're both interested, is what that means.
Right.
And I love that for us because he's a good player. He had a sneaky amount of picks last year. So
Yeah.
He did.
good for him. Good call, Adam. That was a good little nugget.
Yeah, I wanted to sneak a little bit of that in. I know that we are going a little later than we thought we were going to, but I think we had some good discussions this week.
It's a fun show.
Absolutely, man. I just wanted to point out this is hilarious. I have just moved. This is my new place. I found my old iPod Touch. Kyle West,
Cool.
do you remember this charger that was that wide? I can't
Yeah.
wait to find one of those on Amazon and plug this up and see what nonsense is on here. So that's going to be cool.
Oh boy.
Oh man, let's do some banners and talk about plug-in stuff. Hey, if you guys didn't already, thank you all that have watched. Andrew, I know MC Sports was in. Skull Soda made it in. Charlotte and Jonathan, thank y'all so much. Like and subscribe. Follow the channel on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, and it'll let you know when we're going live. I always post the notification and the reminder before the show. Very rarely, if at all, will we ever just go live on the spot unless there's crazy news that happens. So like and subscribe, and give us a follow on the social media stuff, especially YouTube. First one
And
up.
I know we're a little later than usual this week, but we always appreciate when you guys can hop in and join the conversation. It's so much fun. I'm over on the Viking Age, and I'm on all social media at MN Viking Zombie. We can talk football, we can talk wrestling, we can talk anything, really. Horror movies, I'm good at that. I'm good at reality competition TV shows. Let's talk about whatever, anything. I'm good.
Yeah, click on Adam's articles on the Viking Age. It's very cool. I've been pounding it into the ground that you guys' new layout. It's not even new anymore. It's just the layout now. It's a lot easier to digest, and you don't even have to click on anything. You just scroll, and he gets paid. So
yeah, moving away from the slideshow format has been really interesting. And at first, I didn't like it, but I've kind of gotten used to it.
I think it's better for the reader, and I like that it's much better for your wallet that people just go click and scroll, and that's it for you, man. That's fairly simple.
Yeah, I don't got to worry about making things like enticing people or trying to make people click on that next link because if you got to click on that next banner to see what's next, not a lot of people are going to do that.
Yeah, that one drew me out. Kyle West,
Hey, you can follow me at Vaguely Square over on Blue Sky. That is my social media platform of choice. We can talk about whatever. We can talk about Vikings news or
Oh, I thought you were going to do the
photography.
Orange Cassidy thing where we talk about whatever and do it whenever.
Very evil, very nice. I don't know how to fit that in with anything else, but there's your last wrestling reference for the
Oh, we'll
day.
take it.
Yeah.
You can follow me on the old Instagram at NCDogDude. I'm getting away from the TikToks and the X or Twitter. I like Instagram, so I'm just going to use Instagram. So you can follow me there.
Yeah, I noticed you've actually been sending some Instagrams every now and then. I'm like, okay, maybe he's doing more stuff now. I'm still sending you the TikToks, so.
I completely turned off the badges or the notifications and anything. So whenever I get on there, it's usually for like half a second, and that's it. I want to give a shout out to this guy right here. If you guys look on my hat, he's one of my favorite artists ever. He's got a new album dropping tonight. If you like folk or Americana, his name's Sean McConnell.
I thought you were going to shout out the chatbot from Twitch down there.
Yeah, me too.
Here we go. Cheap viewers on streamboo.com remove the space.
You probably shouldn't.
I wonder what's there. Nice try, Diddy. We're not clicking on that. Thank you.
Nope.
Lots of viruses.
Sean McConnell's new album Skin is out tonight. I love this guy's music. I aim to make music like this guy does. Really excited. The singles that he's released so far are very enjoyable for my ears. So give a shout out to the people that I like. And that's all I got.
How is your dog feel? Do you have like dog feelings about what happened with Gene Hackman today?
I heard that. I didn't think it was real.
Incredibly sad story.
It's terrible. It seems oddly suspicious.
Very.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But yeah, it's never cool. That's some John Wick stuff, man. Don't mess with people's dogs. What the hell's wrong with people? Don't murder people in general, but also if you're gonna do that, leave the damn dog out of it. That's
don't
crazy.
Murder people or pets, please.
Yeah, refrain from the murdering of people and their dogs.
Don't be murdering. That's our tagline from now on.
Take it away, guys. Don't be murdering.
Oh. And on that note, thanks for listening to the Purple People podcast. We'll be back soon.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about the Minnesota Vikings, and hopefully you'll be here to do that with us. In the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.